have with us OBGYN in Vicksburg, member of the Mississippi Medical Association Board of Trustees. Dr. Joe Austin joins us. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. And I think you can help us address one specific thing that we keep hearing when it comes to vaccines. And I'm just starting with it. We'll start with the big one and work our way down. A lot of people think that if they get the vaccine, it's going to harm their reproductive health, or if they are pregnant, it's going to harm the baby, going to harm them. Medical opinion from an OBGYN, what do you say to that?
No, there's no evidence that there is any interference with infertility. You know, it's kind of interesting. We define infertility as 1 year of exposure without a resultant pregnancy. Well, the vaccine hadn't even been out a year, so people that were going to have reproductive issues prior to getting a shot, guess what? They still have reproductive issues after the shot, and they're focusing on the wrong issue of blaming a shot. Transmission to infants is really low. Of the pregnancy cases that we have so far, there's about 11% transmission to newborns and from infected mothers, and with very mild to basically no symptoms at all.
Well, and especially with an infant, they're all of their systems are in overdrive to begin with as they're building up, so they might handle it a bit better, I would think.
Yes, they do have the support they need.
Now, the question is, and here is, I'm going to read this off the ceasefire text line. We do not know enough about the vaccine.
Well, yes, but we do know a lot about vaccines. We've been producing vaccines in the United States for 60 to 80 years. I mean, our technology and ability to produce an effective agent is very good. The evidence is that, you know, there is no major risk, that a lot of that stuff is unfounded in medical fact. So, but people get afraid and they run with their fear, and they avoid the therapy that they need.
Now, let me ask you, what are you hearing from your patients when they come in? What's the general overall sense that you're getting here? I get more pushback than I would expect. I mean, you know, and just to go back a little bit historic, you know, I mean, we're big advocates of getting flu shots in pregnancy. You know, women who get the flu are 5 times, while pregnant, are 5 times more likely to be admitted to the hospital. Well, it's the same thing with COVID. Women in pregnancy don't handle pulmonary infections very well. If you're pregnant and get COVID, you're 10 times more likely to be admitted to the hospital. The pushback comes from just insecurity and just a lack of facts and understanding of the safety and the efficacy of it. You know, one statistic that I've learned over the last few weeks from SuperTalk was another physician online, 96% of the physicians in the United States are vaccinated. You know, we're rather conservative fellas and women, and we don't jump on things easily. But if 96% have signed up, then we have a significant respect for the virus and the fear of that. Well, and that's the thing, and you and I were talking right before we went on the air. A lot of this is the pushback that you're talking about. It has an emotional basis to it.
Certainly.
It's not that we're looking at the facts. We're looking for anything to justify why we're upset. And everybody's upset. I mean, it's been a year and a half. We're all a little bit cranky right now. But everyone is doing that. Is that kind of what you see from your patients?
Yes. And, you know, but, you know, as also we were talking beforehand, you know, it's coming around and it's getting closer and closer to those individuals, you know, and I agree. I'm kind of one of them for the first, you know, almost 18 months of this thing. You know, I've had some affected patients. Fortunately, everybody's been mild, you know, maybe a couple admissions to the hospital, but nobody's been ventilated or nobody has died, fortunately, from anything I've had to deal with. But it's getting closer to the, you know, family members are getting it now. You know, staff people members are getting it now, you know, so the closer it gets to those individuals, the more leery they become of it, and the more they start to concede, well, maybe this isn't a bad thing and this is some therapy we need to do.
Well, and that's the irony of this, I think, because it is running rampant everywhere, and it's a lot different from what we had last year. Last year, yeah, the question would circulate all the time on social media and everywhere else. Just curious, do you personally know anybody that has actually had this? Nobody's asking that anymore because it would be almost impossible to find somebody that doesn't know someone that's had it now.
Certainly.
So things have changed completely in that regard. And ironically enough, that may, in my opinion, be leading to the increase in people getting vaccinations. It's because of that personal connection that you're talking about, I think.
Oh, no doubt. Thomas Dawes made the comment, one time he said, everybody's eventually going to get antibodies to this. You're either going to get your vaccine and develop antibodies, or you're going to get COVID and develop antibodies. And, there's a reason not to be vaccinated today. And the biggest problem is, and what you have to think about, we can't vaccinate the kids, but you can protect your children by getting moms getting their vaccines and not taking COVID home to the house. Just to speak again on a personal thing, staff member got COVID. 2 out of her 3 children also received it, got COVID shortly thereafter.
And that's the way this thing is going, especially with the Delta variant.
Certainly.
You get close to it, you're going to have it.
Yes, sir.
That's the way it's working. We have some, and this is. By the way, somebody does have a question here. Any data on immunity for previously infected who haven't had the vaccination? That's still kind of out there, isn't it?
It is. I mean, when you become infected, obviously your body's going to produce antibodies against the virus at that time. But it has been shown that if you get vaccinated 90 days after, that your immune response is enhanced, and that's almost like being super protected. So it adds an additional layer of protection against potential reinfections, which unfortunately we see that too.
And that can happen. And another question on the text line. You're ignoring the fact that people that are vaccinated are getting COVID and giving it to other people. And let me step in here first, Doc. Let me take a lead on this one for a second. At no point did anyone ever say the vaccine was 100% effective. Never. No, I've not heard that one time from anyone, including the manufacturers. Why is that the standard we want to hold it to? Well, somebody got the vaccine and got it. Yeah, it's not 100%. Nothing is. So that, to me, is kind of a diverting argument in a way. We're not really dealing with what's going on here. We're trying to hold something to a standard it never said it was going to meet, and that is leading to some of the confusion, I think.
Oh, absolutely. But what you have to understand about that, if you are vaccinated, it significantly reduces your risk of hospitalization and greatly reduces your risk of potential death from that disease. And unfortunately, as we're seeing in this round, we're having a lot of 40-year-olds in the hospital, where before it was a lot of 65-year-olds, but we vaccinated all the 65-year-olds, so now it's going to the unvaccinated younger crowd.
Yeah, the age has shifted big time. I know several different people in their 20s right now that are in the hospital. We've got one back home. She is fighting for her life at this point.
I mean, I was watching the news last night. I mean, we've got 25, 28 children in the hospital, 8 of which are in the intensive care unit over the state of Mississippi right now.
Yeah. The interesting thing also that we hear quite a bit, and we're getting several of these on the text line, using the word mandate. The vaccine hasn't been mandated.
No.
That's why we keep trying to convince people to do it, because nobody has said do it or we're throwing you in jail. It's not mandated. And again, this is, I think, taking everything to an extreme. Have you seen that with your patients? They take one little thing and they blow it out to an extreme, and that's where they make their stand.
Oh, of course. A big thing you hear about is the vaccine passports, things like that. Well, I eat dinner every Thursday night with the Choctaw Fishing Club, and we have a collection of gentlemen. We all have dinner, and one of the fellows was a pilot for the government, he said, those things have been around for decades. He said, I've got one at my house. He said, before I could go to Africa, he said, there were 15 things that I had to have. And he said, I had to carry that passport card with me or they would not allow me into that country. He said, so everybody wants to say, oh, this is a new thing. And he said, man, this has been around for a long, long time. And he said, that's the way the world works, that if you want to go to those places, you have to be